I think the unlock for you, if you really want to get out of field operations, is implementing pay for performance.
Average right now is like 18.
Oh, dude, this is going to be great because what you're going to do, you're going to try to sell it to them. Hey guys, I'm going to run the numbers on the back end. Here's what I need from you. If all 8 showed up and had perfect attendance, I would 1000% give that $8,000 away. We're going to be doing so much in revenue and all that. I'm willing to give that up.
That's super cool. Very motivating.
All right. So today we have Derek. Help us kind of get caught up. Give us maybe like a 30-second feedback or like where you're at in business. And then we can jump into the questions and go over any questions you may have.
Sure, you bet. Will, thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to it today. So the overview of our business, I'm the owner of Anderson Lawn Care in Overland Park, Kansas, which is a suburb of Kansas City. And we focus, our customer base is exclusively residential, small to medium-sized yards. So we don't do the big estates. We're in the suburbs and the cul-de-sacs. The services we provide are maintenance. So mowing is about, in the last couple of years, it's been just a little bit under 50% of our revenue, but really it's kind of the flywheel for our business. Everything else kind of comes off of mowing, but we're doing just basic yard maintenance, bush and shrub trimming, small tree pruning. We don't climb trees, but we'll cut down small branches, that kind of thing. We do spring and fall cleanups. Leaf cleanups is a big part of our business. In the early fall, we'll do aerating and overseeding, just general property maintenance. So that's kind of the overall sketch of our business. We have a handful of guys who are on the crew, and they're all part-time. The full-time equivalent, like on our busiest weeks, would be like the equivalent of 3 full-time guys. So that's where we're at. We're going to finish the year probably just under $300,000 in revenue. And so we started in 2020. So we're getting our feet underneath us, but the goal is to grow.
Nice. That's awesome. Very cool. So like is there like a big bottleneck or maybe something that like what's the next level that you're trying to get to? Like what is holding you back, or like what unlock do you need, hopefully, that I can help you with to get you to that next level?
Yeah. Well, I should say one more thing too about our services and what we don't offer. We don't offer weed and feed or, the applications. We could, but, and I could also sub that out, and that might be something we do. I haven't seen that as an additional service that we want to offer at this point in time. I feel like we can grow to $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 in revenue without having to do that. There's a lot of competition in our market, like there is for everybody. So it's a whole nother bolt on to do. So I guess someone could convince me to add that on, but I'm not convinced that I have to do that. But how I guess information I'm looking from you is, my understanding is that your business is in a lot of ways similar to what we do as far as who your typical customer is, but you're a couple apps ahead, I think, on the size of your business. So some questions that I have, I just want to see if I'm on the right track, kind of benchmarking against some other guys. And I'm interested in knowing, like, I'll just run through several things real quick, and maybe you can tell me which ones of those are important to chat about today. One, I'm interested in knowing just what your pay rate and pay range is for your guys, and also if you do some like incentive-based pay or pay for production, that kind of pay. I'm also interested in how you have implemented winter services and just keep revenue going in January, February, and the first half of March. And then also I'm interested in how you, like, what compensation looks like for manager pay. And I'll tell you a little specific on that. My son, he works for us, and it's really cool to work in a father-son business. And he's been with me since the start. And he is, I want to build a career path for him. He's 21 years old and super capable, really good with customers, excellent with our team, runs our equipment super well too. So I would love to build a business to the point where he can make a very good full-time income, as a field operations manager. And there's room in that business for both of us, is what I'm wanting to say. That's a huge goal of mine.
Yeah. So would you say that's like kind of like the end goal, or like what is the end goal? Is it like both of you guys working in the business where neither of you guys are in the field, Is it
Yeah.
like a certain dollar amount, certain number of locations? What's the end goal?
Yeah, I'd say that would be the end goal where I can be not in the field. I'm at that point where I'm an old guy now, so I like to go into the field. But the reality is that the young guys can. I can do it, but I'd rather those guys do it. But I'd love to be at the spot where, over the next 1 to 3 years, that our son can have kind of a dual role where he's, field operations, where he is managing the guys in the field and he's out in the field, but he's also, on that management side. So if he, wants to take a week off, he needs to, whatever, that the business can run without him because we're fully staffed. But he's able to, like say, I guess like a field management type of a position where he's hands-on, but he also is managing our crews. And so I'm kind of wondering, like, what size do you think that number that's attainable at, and what have you seen?
Yeah, these are really good questions, and it's good to know like all the services because that helps kind of align with what we have seen, right? So our businesses are very similar. We focus on small residential. It depends on like what you're wanting. So like for example, off the top of my head, one operations manager or general manager, once it gets to about 500,000 in annual revenue, that's when we start to see that the general manager is now shifting more to like doing managing than the actual work. There might be times, maybe once a week, where he's got to kind of go down and cover down, but majority of his time is spent like selling, managing the crews, and things of that nature. So as far as like getting you out of the field too, I mean, depending on what you're wanting to do in the business will matter too. So like I look at it as like 3 different roles. You have sales, you have admin, and sales, admin, and operations. Okay. So pretty much what we do is our office manager takes over the admin side and just over the phone sales. The sales role in our business is kind of split between the office and the general manager. For our general manager, they are responsible for basically all operations, like you said, and then as well as like doing in-person estimates. So selling as well. That's kind of how we've set that up. But yeah, between 500 and 800,000, you could absolutely have a like ideally full-time, office person. Ideally closer to the 800,000 will
Yeah.
give you much better cushions and stuff like that. But yeah, at that point is where you see like, hey, you got to kind of hire a full-time admin person, and then the general manager is now shifting to kind of like more out of the field. So I would say for your like, if you're okay with doing admin stuff and
Yeah.
like doing that's fully out of the field.
Yeah.
And then he can be doing really the operation side of things. Once that hits really close to 500 is when that tipping point kind of happens.
Cool. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Can you tell me, for your guys in the field, and is it different for your operations manager? Have you set up your pay structure, and how does that work?
Yeah, loaded question. So let's start off with the field team, right? Are you just doing hourly rate right now, or are you doing like, okay, so this you're doing 300,000 right now. Obviously the goal is to get it to 500 and above.
Yep.
I think the unlock for you, if you really want to get out of field operations, is implementing pay for performance.
Okay.
All right. Are you familiar with that system and process? Okay.
Yeah.
That, I think we implemented that when we were doing like, probably right around where you were at, maybe 300-ish thousand, give or take. And it was crazy. Like when we shifted over, like we did half of our team was able to do what our entire team used to do, just because they're like getting paid better and things like that. So in our business, what we do, we charge the customer 80 an hour for labor, and then we give a percentage to our crews of 33% of every labor hour. So you just said that you do a lot of maintenance, mowing.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been tracking your start and end times on every property and collecting that data?
I don't have it on every property, no. I have a pretty good idea for how, like, what it takes for us to finish a job. I mean, so right now our rates, just to give you the ballpark, last year, this year, our average mowing visit was, I think, $55 per visit.
55.
And
okay.
Yep, the average amount and the average size of a yard, this would be like including the house, the driveway, everything, but just the size of the lot, was like a quarter acre. So they're not postage stamps yards, but not big either.
Okay.
And the average amount of time that would take we'd have a 2-man mowing crew. And normally we would have, like, from the time that we stop the truck until we start the truck back up. So
Mhm.
property time, we'd be on property for about 22 minutes.
22 minutes. Okay.
So
So,
times two, so that's 44 minutes of labor hours.
yep. All right. So 44 minutes. We're going to divide that by 60, puts it at 0.73 budgeted hours. And let's just multiply that by what we're charging. Okay. Yeah, I'd say dude, that's pretty good. So at 0.73 budgeted hours, if we multiply that by 80 an hour, it puts you at $58.
Okay.
And you said you're charging on average 55?
Yeah, 55 or 56 is what we came out at.
All right, this is phenomenal news because what this is, there should be enough cushion in there for you to test this out. Okay, so what I would do right now, they're just all hourly, right? Like you said, what I would do is I would start to run these numbers on the back end. You don't even need to like do P for P software or anything like literally just get an Excel spreadsheet.
Okay.
And here's the only thing that takes more admin work. You're gonna have to go into your CRM and add budgeted hours on the jobs.
Okay.
Once that's established, where you have like budgeted hours set for each property, now we can go in and start to run the numbers for the crews on the back end. And what I would do for like 2 straight weeks is I would, on the Excel spreadsheet, okay, this person did 6 budgeted hours of work today, or maybe 5 or 4, whatever. Multiply that by 80, an hour. And then that would give you that total labor revenue that they're doing that day. If you multiply that by 0.33, that is ideally what you would pay them. And so what you want to do is compare that to their hourly rate for like 2 straight weeks.
Okay.
And then you could start to see the data on the back end to see, okay, is it ideally if there's good route density and you're not driving all over the place and you have crews that aren't sitting in the truck a lot, they're going to make more money on the P for P thing, because if you do the math at 80 an hour, which is pretty much what you're charging just to it, times 0.33, as long as they're actively working, like for every budget hour that they're getting completed, they're making $26.40 an hour.
Gotcha.
Which is probably more than what you're paying hourly, right?
Yeah, we're average right now is like 18.
Oh, dude, this is gonna be great, because what you're gonna do is you're gonna try to sell it to them. Hey guys, I'm gonna run the numbers on the back end. Here's how we're gonna do it. Here's what I need from you. Don't be dragging your feet this week, and don't be flying through the properties. Let's move with purpose. Let's do good quality. Let's not cut corners, but let's keep our money focused mindset, right? Like let's try to knock these jobs out. And then you compare the two at the end of the day, and dude, they're probably going to make $3 to $7 more per hour. And then what you do, what's nice is you bring them that data and you say, okay, which pay do you want to do? And then you give it up to them, instead of coming out and just like switching everything next week and be like, we're going to P for P pay. Here's how it works. You're going to get 33%. It's kind of like, you want them to buy into it, but when you sit them and show them the 2 paychecks or the numbers, and you'd be like, hey, which one do you want? The P for P, as long as they're working hard and you have good route density at this stage of all the data that you gave me, is going to make sense for them.
Yeah. Okay.
And okay, so what that will do is that will unlock the growth from 300 to 500, because now you don't have to micromanage the crews. You don't have to sit there on the dispatch board to see, are they getting the routes done? Why are we moving slow? Because if they're money motivated, they're like, it just frees up your time, less headaches to like have to micromanage people. Like at the end of the day, the numbers don't lie. And if somebody's coming back that has like, they're not making tons of money or their efficiency score is really bad, like it's because of them. It's, you know what I mean? Like it's in their hands. So
I've been thinking about a pay for performance for sure, and that's really helpful information, very much so. So my bottleneck this last year really hasn't been, we've had good efficiency and our profit margins have been really strong. I love that. The thing that was a challenge this last year, 2 things. Starting the year in January and February, we weren't dormant, but we did not generate a lot of revenue. So it was like just above dormant, which kind of sucks. Then the other thing that was a real challenge this last year is we didn't get the new business coming in that I anticipated. And I know a lot of people talked about it was just a crazy year in the world and people weren't in general, making changes and spending money. Well, hopefully that's changing in 2025. But those were some things that I was struggling with too. It's like we were ramped up and we were ready. Like we could have handled an additional $100,000 of revenue. Like we had capacity for it. It just didn't come in. The phone just didn't. I mean, so two things. My close ratio on our sales in in the spring rush. So just for mowing, we closed 25% of our leads. So that would have been nice to have, but we're not cheap. So that, price, makes a difference. And then the other issue was we just didn't get as many leads as I thought we were going to get as well. So we have pretty dense routes, so we don't drive all across the county. But so that was a challenge. Like we were ready for growth, but we just didn't see that 30% growth that we would have liked to have seen.
Yeah. So at 25%, that's a bit concerning to me, especially just doing mowing and like landscaping and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Off of the top of my head, what I think of when I hear that is I would be questioning, so like when you send an estimate out, like, are we following up with that estimate like same day? Like
Right.
if you go out and you do a mulch job and bush trimming quote, we need to be calling the customer that day. What the trap that we fell into, and hopefully this will help a lot of people, is we would send out like a marketing thing for like, via email or text, like, hey, we're offering bush trimming this month. And we would get like literally like 150 people would respond back and be like, yes, I want a quote. And so what we would do is we would just fly through that list. We would like put them all on a map. We would route it. We'd go out, do the estimates, but like we would never call them. And it was not as effective as if we just slowed down, downshift a gear. Let's do 10 to 12 solid estimates today, and let's call every single one of them by the end of the day. We found that to be more effective than, oh my goodness, we've got 150 estimates and we got to get all of these done in the next week and a half.
Yeah.
And then we're just firing off estimates, but we never hear back from the customer. So like that will definitely hurt the close ratio. So are you doing follow-up calls on estimates?
We didn't do a great job. It was haphazard. So honestly, yeah.
So I would say definitely lean into that more for sure. The other thing that, again, off the top of my head, and I would have to sit down and look and like, okay, how many leads did we get this year? Like, how much money do you think off the top of your head that you maybe spent in marketing this year?
I could look, but it was probably $7,000
All right, that's a pretty good chunk. And what did you do annually last year?
in 2023.
Yeah.
Revenue wise.
Yep.
I think it was 230.
Okay, so you increased 70,000. You spent 7,000 and went up 70,000.
Yeah.
Okay. What type of marketing were you doing?
It was a little bit of EDDM, and we did some flyers, not a ton, and the rest of it was internet. As far as our website, we're paying for SEO. We'll post on Nextdoor 4 times a week. We'll post on the Google Business Profile 4 or 5 times a week. And so just really, I mean, and we rank really well. I mean, when you look at our city for our search terms, we're on page 1, we're on the map pack. So, I mean, we're where we want to be. So it was just kind of weird that we weren't getting more leads. But
so let me ask you this: for the EDDM, what percentage of that 7,000 do you believe that you spent on EDDM?
I think I spent $1,000 on it.
1,000, and then what about the flyers?
Probably $500 or so. We did like 2,000 flyers, not a ton.
Yeah. Okay. So the other like basically $5,000 is coming from doing from website.
Yeah.
Okay. That seems a little high for the website, unless you're paying like a company to do that. Trying to think. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to marketing and stuff, are you familiar with how to figure out like a customer acquisition cost on that?
Yeah, but we can go through that. Sure. Just, I mean, if I'm closing 25% of my leads, my quotes, and each quote, is costing me $50, just kind of back into that.
It's more so siloed by the different marketing tactics, for example. All right. So like, let's say, so you said that you spent $1,000 on EDDM, right?
Yeah.
What the data that you would want to gather, and if you aren't tracking this, I would 100% track this, because everybody that tracks numbers will, like keeping a score of the game will win you the game, right? What the data that we would need is like how many customers came from, how many leads came from an EDDM, and then from that, how many converted as a customer.
Okay.
And so, man, I have a video out there about this, but basically, if we can gather that data based on us spending $1,000, we'll be able to get a customer acquisition cost. So let's just say, for example, on that $1,000 EDDM, four people called, right?
Yeah.
And you have a 25% close ratio. That means you're only converting one customer.
Right.
So your customer acquisition cost, you spent $1,000 to acquire one customer. That is a not good. I would tell you to stop that. And we need to put that money somewhere else, maybe on the like truck wrap, maybe door hanger flyers. Like we need to switch that up, or maybe try Google ads or something like that. That would be another thing that's a little concerning to me, spending $7,000, because at our locations, we normally will spend like 12 to 15K at a location. And then we're typically growing it to like 150 to 200,000 on that, like roughly. Sometimes more, sometimes like 250, depending on what year we're in, right?
So 10 to 1. I mean, for every dollar in marketing, $10 in revenue.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's a pretty good return if you could shoot for that. I don't know if you'll get that every time, ideally, but yeah. So that would be another thing of a data point. So like as you look at next year, so your goal is to get, what I would do is try to hit the benchmark of at least 500K next year.
Yeah. Yep.
Within the next 12 months, you can be like, hey, look, this is the game plan. We're trying to get you out of the field, and the way that we need to do that is to get to 500,000.
Yep.
What I need from you is to we need to engage in the sales mode. We need to sell estimates, get as many recurring mowing customers as possible. And then early spring, I think it would be beneficial. Are you when a new lead calls, are you tracking how they heard about you guys?
We're starting to, yeah.
Okay, that's super important, because if you're spending this money, $7,000, $10,000 on marketing, and you're going to probably do that next spring, you're going to want to know that, and I would track this weekly in the spring rush, because if you get 3 weeks into it and the EDDM thing isn't working, I would not waste another penny on that, and I would shift over to maybe doing more door hangers where that might be more effective.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm just taking notes here while you're.
Yeah. And that might be more effective for you to ramp that up. But honestly, between implementing P for P on that, and then yeah, really just like making sure that your marketing dollars are being spent effectively. Oh my goodness. Yeah, there's no reason with some extra work that you guys can't get to 500,000 next year.
I love it. That's awesome, Will. Can you tell me just a little bit, and I know you had a video that came out recently about winter services. So our climate, we don't get much snow, and if we do, it doesn't last typically. I mean, we'll have an outlying winter every once in a while, but snow is not a reliable source of revenue for residential companies like mine in the Kansas City area. But the grass is dormant, and I would love, one thought that I have is like, we tell all of our mowing customers, hey, we're offering either monthly or every other week monthly winter visits, and we're just going to keep your yard tidy. And then when we hit spring, then we're back into mowing. But how have you implemented that? What do you think about that? What's a realistic way to just move forward with that and keep our guys busy and bring in revenue?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think with your area up there in the Kansas area, I think winter services is like a huge unlock for you. Like it will help supplement that income in the winter and everything. The way that I would probably approach that, I don't know if I would do monthly. Monthly is just too it's just not as often. I would try to keep the same rotation as the mowing service. So for example, what we do mow in the weekly in the summer, but in the fall we do shift over to bi-weekly just because the grass slows down. We just stay on that bi-weekly rotation, and we're just like, hey, instead of mowing, we're going to be doing winter services, and this is what it includes: a monthly mow as needed, removing leaves, trimming bushes, de-weeding flower beds, and light pruning, like 3-inch diameter or less. We don't do any tree trimming.
Yeah.
This is more so the branches that just smack our guys when they're mowing near the street. That's pretty much what we focus on. Because here's what I would tell you too. When you're trying to figure out like a scheduling thing, the customer is just basic. Most of them are just going to do what you say is best.
Okay.
Whether you say that's once a month we're going to come out and do winter services, or every other week. I'd rather do every other week, because half of the customers aren't like going to bat an eye at that. And then what we do is we put a little disclaimer at the bottom of all of our estimates that we send out for mowing. It just says winter services in effect December 1st to February, basically March 1st or February 30th or 28th, whatever the last day of February is. Super, super small disclaimer, which means nothing, because 99% of them don't see it. But if they ever question, it's like, hey, we do say winter services. Now, when we start winter services, because our winter services start like mid-November, all we do is send out a mass email to all the mowing customers and say, winter services is beginning. You are automatically enrolled unless you tell us otherwise. You guys can opt out if you want. If you want to opt out, just let us know. We can do a monthly mow. If you don't want the winter services every 2 weeks, we could do a monthly mow. Just respond back with like monthly mow, and we'll set that up for you. Or just say opt out, and we will opt you out and start your mowing back up March 1st. And that's kind of how we retain. Honestly, depending on the customer clientele that you have, 30 or 40% of those probably aren't even going to check their emails. They don't care. They're working class people. They just want their lawn looking good, so they were just going to go with it anyway.
Yeah.
There's going to be like 20 to 30% of that you got to kind of like convince of like why this is good. Well, here's why it's good. Number one, you don't have to, like, you're not going to be billed if there's no work to be done. If we show up at the property and everything looks pristine, we skip you. You don't get billed. The second thing is this secures your spot in the springtime. And then the last thing would be just, you don't want to leave wet leaves on the lawn. It's very easy service. We just pick up, knock out those things front, back, and sides. And just, again, adding value to the customer. 30% of those customers, may have to like give them a reason of why this makes sense to them. They're like, well, why don't I just wait until spring? And then there's going to be maybe 20 or 30% of the customers that probably are just like, hey, I want to opt out or do monthly mowing. But every year you do it, it will become more normal to the customer. So I found the first year that we did it, I think we retained about like 60% of our customers. And this will help give you hopefully some math too of like, man, how much work are we going to generate in the winter?
Yeah.
But honestly, every year since it's gone up. Like I think last year was like 70%. This year, I think we're retaining like 75 or 80%,
And when you say retain, as in customers who did not opt out.
Yeah. So
that
allow us to show up every other week. Yeah.
That's great. So right now for us, most of our neighborhoods where we provide service are established. They're not new housing developments. We have one route where there aren't really any trees. So there aren't any really leaves to clean up. It's just all the trees are like at most like 8 feet tall and they're skinny and there's no leaves. The rest of our target area and where our customers live, the neighborhoods are 30, 40, 50, 60 years old. And so there are tall trees, 40-foot, 50-foot trees with tons of leaves. And so we're in leaf cleanup season right now. So we're not doing mowing because there's way too many leaves to do that. But once we're done with leaf cleanup season, which is kind of like Christmas, then we'll still get customers who contact us and need full leaf cleanups in January. But what I'm thinking from what you're saying is we could just contact all of our mowing customers specifically and say, now we're in January, so we're in winter service season. Would you agree with that? Or what are your thoughts?
If it were me, I would implement winter services sooner. Because like, how are you getting those leaf cleanups right now? Is it just one-off customers that are calling you and saying, I got leaves, I need a pickup? Or are you mandatory putting all of those types of customers that need leaf cleanups on a system or a rotation?
Yeah, it's really so how we filled our schedule was contacting our leaf cleanup customers from previous years and putting out quotes, contacting them, and we'll do mass emailing 2 times a month. And then this year when we booked our leaf cleanups, our quote said our standard service offering is 2 full yard cleanups, one in November and then a second cleanup approximately 3 weeks later. So here's your price. And our average price for leaf cleanup this year is about $320 for a yard.
I got
it. But we just told them our default is we're coming twice. And so that was huge because that filled up a good part of our December a lot quick, like we're not scrambling as much this December as we were last year.
So how many leaf removal customers do you think you have?
We are so we did 75 leaf cleanups in November,
Okay.
and we are aiming. Our goal is to get 100 in December. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I think we might get close.
So how many mowing customers do you have?
We have about 80 on our weekly route.
Okay, so out of that 80,
Yeah,
how many of those are getting that leaf cleanup service currently?
maybe half.
Okay. That's pretty good, actually. That's pretty good. There's two ways you can slice this up. The first way, which I would maybe recommend doing this next year, is you can still offer that type of like twice a year service for the leaf cleanup thing. What I would do is also implement winter services once the mowing season ends.
Yeah,
That's when you would just start and be like, hey, because here's the thing. If those customers that are on that one time, or I guess twice a year leaf cleanup service,
yeah,
whether or not they get put on winter services or not, there's still other things to do on winter services. And if they get there and like the leaves are already picked up because you guys did that service for them, okay,
yeah,
then we go to the next service. Okay, bush trimming. Okay, de-weeding beds. And then like if they get through it and there's nothing to do, they don't get charged. So like it's not, the customer can't lose. It's their property's only getting better every time you're there. You know what I mean? Yeah, I would probably send that out and just let everybody know that you're going on winter services. This is kind of what it includes. This year, what you can do, because the window is kind of delayed, is you could just be like, hey, the leaf removal season is now come to a close. Now for the next 2 months, we are implementing a new process called winter services. Here's how it works. Everybody that's on our mowing service is just automatically enrolled. And then what you just be aware that you may have, because it's your first year and you haven't done this before, you're going to get a couple of customers that are going to give you kickback. Like, what the heck is this, Derek? Like, this doesn't make sense. Why are we doing this? That's okay. Like, they just need to be educated. They need to be groomed a little bit. They may be like, hey, this is the first time I've ever heard about this, right? But ultimately, yeah, that's okay. Just be very lenient on a refund policy, right?
yeah.
And just be like, hey, no
Right,
worries. Hey,
right.
no worries. The $55 visit, hey, you know what I mean? It's because you don't want to lose customers by doing this, but just be very gracious and have that refund policy in place.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, I like that. So, in other words, at this point in the season, like I say, we're pushing hard on leaf cleanups, and we're rocking on that right now, and it's super profitable. But then you're saying, I just want to make sure that I'm following you. Contact our customers with our mowing customers who are our 2024 mowing customers. Contact them and say we are ending our leaf cleanup season. That season ends in December, and we're now starting our winter service schedule. And here's what that looks like, and here's what your schedule will look like. And then if you want to opt out, you sure can. But here's what the plan will be.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds good. Yeah, that's perfect. And it's like, and you got to give them a little bit, of the details too. So like what we do is I shot a video of me
Okay.
walking a property, and I was like, hey, my name is Will. This is what winter services entails. It's like a 2-minute video. And in the email that we send out, I say, please take 30 seconds to watch this video because it's very important. And then that video goes over everything winter services. Yeah, because you just want to kind of double tap it. You could also put it in the text in the email, but yeah, that's pretty much it. And then you just let them know, hey, let's say we get to your property and there's a foot deep of leaves on the front and the back of the yard. Like,
Yeah.
we're only spending the allotted amount of time we have for the mow. So just be aware that like we might only be able to clean up one section of the front yard
Yeah.
on this visit, but then we'll be back 2 weeks from now to clean up the other. Also, we've been doing before and after pictures this year. Phenomenal, because we've had it where our team member has gone out and done a leaf cleanup in the front yard. And then the guy got home at like 3 PM and he calls us and he's like, hey, nobody came here. Why did I get billed? And we were like, and it was one of our great team members that we know, like they did the work and never give us any question to think otherwise. And so now we do before and after pictures on all of our photos, but that will help too.
Okay. Would you recommend also, if we go out and we see, the yard, like we can't mow because the yard is covered, would it make sense to contact when we implement winter service to say, if we find that you need a full yard leaf cleanup, we'll contact you with that price estimate instead of a winter service visit this month?
So
Or does that make it too complicated?
what type of grass type? Like how long is the mowing season up there? Because like off the top of my head, like my initial thought is like, well, maybe we should just start winter services a little bit sooner. And so like instead of mowing that week, like could you give the crew flexibility to do what the pain point is on the customer? And it sounds like the pain point is the leaf removal on that visit. So hey, we need to clean up the leaves, and then when we come back 2 weeks from now, maybe we can cut it if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and yeah, we have cool season grass up here. It's fescue. So it's still, I mean, the grass right now, I'm looking out my window, the grass is green. It's pretty much dormant, but it's still green.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to think like, I mean, like leaves do cover our customers' yards. I mean, so we have to do leaf cleanup. We can't do like just winter services in November and December. We've got to clear the leaves, like do a full on leaf cleanup.
Yeah, but so the only thing though, then you would almost need to make it like almost mandatory if they're in a leaf area. Like we need to pick these leaves up. I don't know. I think
okay. No, that's giving me ideas. I can see like in those routes, those mowing routes, we say we're gonna have to do a leaf cleanup, and then we will move into winter services after that.
Yeah, I think the other thing, like compartmentalizing in your brain, leaf removal is winter services for me. It's for you right now, it's separate. Like you do it as a one time. But for me, winter services is leaf removal. That is probably the biggest task, especially in October, November, or pretty much November, December. Well, mainly December, actually.
Uh-huh.
It was a late fall this year.
Yes. Yep. Same here.
Yeah. So just understanding that, I think if you start winter services, which pretty much means your leaf removal, season, because here's the other thing. Like when we start winter services, so our winter services starts like November 15th to like December 1st, somewhere in that 2-week range. For the next month and a half, that's mainly what we're doing is picking up leaves. And then once we get to January, we're probably like trimming bushes or de-weeding beds, and then pretty much by February most of the properties are in good condition. We're doing a lot of skips.
Okay.
So there's like different seasons, and like maybe in January also that might be when you prune back crepe myrtles. Mm-hmm. And so if anybody asks like, hey, what are you doing on winter services, it's like, hey, during these months we focus on like these main things. But if we get to a property and the first two, like it doesn't need the first two, then we just go to the next thing it needs,
Yeah. Okay. No, that makes perfect sense. Found that you've been able to kind of even out your revenue with implementing that?
Well, yeah. So what I will tell you from the last like 3 to 4 years of doing it, we go down to about a third staff and a third probably of what we're doing price wise and gross or like monthly wise from like June, July, August. So whatever you're doing in June, July, August, you take maybe a third of that. That would put you at a pretty good idea of what winter services is going to generate you.
I mean, yeah, I can live with that.
Yeah. And so obviously the harder you push the throttle and spring rush and get it up to where you're, doing 50, 60, 70 a month. Yeah. And then come December, you're able to do, 25, 30K sometimes, in a month.
Yeah. Okay. No, that makes perfect sense. I love that. That I can see. Yeah. It's just a matter of just having that confidence to the customer. Like this is how we take care of our customers' properties. And it includes taking care of you in the winter as well. We don't let you, we haven't forgotten about you.
Yeah. And then just be super gracious on the refund policy, because you're going to have the first year we had a handful, maybe two of customers being like, what is this? Yeah. Where did this come from? And it's like, right. Hey, this is where our goal is to bring you value. Right. And so we're going to be testing this system, this service. And now we got a 5-star review the other day of a customer being like, I'm so thankful for Military Lawn Cuts. They've got me on winter services this year. They're cleaning up my leaves. They're trimming my bushes. And I'm like, okay, there's customers out there that appreciate us because we're doing this.
Right.
You know? No. So, but yeah, it's a grooming process for sure. The first year you're going to be maybe doing a couple of refunds, but
sure.
Hey, if you can retain, majority of those customers.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah. Can I shift and ask you a little bit more about compensation?
Absolutely.
So back to putting a structure in place for management. What do you, so if for like a field operations manager I'm thinking, a guy he's in the field, but he's also responsible, and stop me if this does not describe your field management, but he's in the field, but he's also responsible for the teams that he's, if there are 3 crews out there, he's responsible for all 3 of them. He's helping with the hiring process, and he's helping with, the management of the guys, some estimates, customer service interaction as needed. What can a guy like that expect to make in an annual basis for, for a company?
It depends on like the tasks that you have them doing, but from what you're describing, what we are doing is $1,000 weekly.
Okay.
Plus pretty much profit sharing in distributions. It depends on the location. So obviously we have 2 locations. One's that's like well more established. And then the other one, the manager is like out in the field every day. But between the 2, the structures are structured differently. So the one that are like we have at our main location, the manager doesn't go out in the field because she's managing 8 to 10 people over there. So it's very, very, very rare that they go out there. Again, $1,000 a week. And then for her, we structure it as 15% profit sharing. There's certain levels to this. And depending on when that person onboards or what they did to help build the location would fluctuate and dictate on what I would be willing to give.
Okay.
General rule of thumb, though, I probably don't want to give more than 30% profit sharing. Like that's probably the max, even if they like started from day 1 with me.
Yeah.
30% max. And then, so the new location, we are focused more on monthly revenue goals.
Okay.
For bonuses. For that one, yeah, again, still $1,000 a week. But again, I mean, our and yours might fluctuate. Maybe it's 48K a year, 50K a year, 52, maybe 55, right? But I'd say like 45 to like maybe 55 is probably a pretty fair price range. And then and then we basically pay monthly bonuses on top of that.
Okay. No, that makes sense. Maybe at some point, and I'll be following you, but at some point I'd love to see like what or understand what your thoughts are on profit sharing and how you've structured that in your company too. It doesn't have to be today, but if you cut a video on that, I'll watch.
Yeah. I think I probably got some videos out there. Like, I mean, I've got probably like 5 more minutes here. So maybe like what, when you say like structuring the profit sharing.
Yeah, you said 15%. So like 15% of the profits after you are paid as well. And then so if the profits are $3,000 that month, then you get 15% of it. So what would that be? Whatever the number is. I mean, $450, I guess. So
yeah. So what we do is we look at the P&Ls, profit and loss statements.
Yep.
And then I also do subtract anything that's on the balance sheet. If we bought a $20,000 truck, I'm sorry, even though that doesn't go on the P&L and it goes on the balance sheet, I am taking that out from the profit sharing, just because like we just put that money in or whatever. As long as it's for the business. What I do is profit and loss. So basically what the profit is saying on the P&L minus any like negative on the balance sheet, where actually ideally it's backwards. It's really kind of confusing, and hopefully this doesn't confuse you, but it's actually a positive on the balance sheet because you're acquiring things.
Yeah,
but
no.
In our mind, we spent 20K. So that would come out of that bottom line.
Yeah. Okay. So kind of a cash flow thing. Like,
yeah. And that's what we're going to be actually moving towards. I think next year, this is one of the things I got to sit down over the next month or so. I'm going to be shifting more to like a certain dollar amount in the bank. Anything above that will be a payout. So like maybe we just say, hey, look, based on what we did last month in revenue, let's just say you did 40K. Okay, that's our number. We take 1 month's revenue of the previous month. That's our benchmark number. Anything above that will be a payout in distributions. If we go under that, or maybe like the last 3 months, the average, something like that. But that way, because that's a pure like distribution of cash flow, right? And otherwise it gets kind of confusing with the balance sheet and the profit and loss statement. That's I think what we're going to be going towards next year. Okay. But yeah, pretty much what you said is just, if it's 15% and it's showing, $3,000 at the end of the month, like here, I'll give you an example. Actually, yeah, our Q3 was really good, really good. I think we had like, man, I think I want to say in Q3 we had like 75,000. And that was after like everybody was paid, the owners are paid, all that stuff. So 75,000 times 0.15. So that'd be an $11,000 bonus.
Wow.
Yeah. And we throttled it this year. Had the pedal to the floor. I was sending out upsells every month. It was crazy. It was crazy. So, but that's pretty much how we would structure that.
Okay. And did you was that profit sharing limited to your management because your field guys are getting P for P?
Yeah. So the management will have a locked in guaranteed profit sharing.
Okay.
The field members, we do offer a 10% profit sharing, but they have to have perfect attendance.
Okay.
And I'm willing to pay. So for the field members, it's 10%. They have to have perfect attendance to be eligible. And it's a collective pool. They each don't get 10%.
Yeah, that's the total. They get split. Okay.
Yeah. I'm willing to give up 10% of my profit for an individual that shows up every day. Also, let's just say like in your scenario, actually, no, we'll just use that 75 grand. Okay. 75 grand is what we did in Q3. So times 10.1 would be 10% profit. I think we had like 8 team members at that time that were eligible. They would have to work the whole quarter. So what we would do, let's just say it's 7 team members.
Yeah.
We would divide that by 7. And so each individual, if they had perfect attendance, would be eligible for a $1,000 bonus for showing up every day on time and making my life easy so I don't have to redispatch the dispatch board because my time is valuable, right? If only one is eligible, that's all he's going to get. Like he's not like going to get everybody else's share. Those other shares just get rolled back to the business.
Yeah. You don't want him submarining everybody else so he can get a bigger bonus.
Yeah. Plus then as an owner, it locks us in and caps us as like that 10% always goes out the door, unfortunately. And so, which I don't like either, but I'm willing, if all 8 showed up and had perfect attendance, I would 1000% give that 8 grand or whatever, 7 grand away because again, we're going to be doing so much in revenue and all that. I'm willing to give that up.
Love it. That's super cool. It's very motivating.
Yeah. And then 1 tardy or 1 late would half that. That way, I get it. Somebody maybe had a flat tire, right? Throughout the quarter or something crazy that might happen. But 2 or more disqualifies them out from it.
Okay.
Yeah. And even if it's 1 minute late, there's that line in the sand,
Yeah.
Because I've had a team member, man, like, Will, isn't that kind of mean if he's only a minute or 2 late? And I'm like, no, it's the standard. So what do you mean? And it's not like guaranteed either. So you can like sell it to them like, hey, look, this is like icing on the cake. Like, don't look at this as like your income. This is a bonus, and a bonus that we don't even have to give actually for you to do what you're supposed to and be here every day. We're willing to give that to you if you're here every day.
Right. Right. Fantastic. I love it.
Cool, man. Well, I gotta wrap this thing up, but I really appreciate you jumping on. You had some really good questions, Derek. I think if you fix the admin with the budgeted hours on each job and you implement P for P, I'm telling you, it will unlock that growth for you. And if you could do it like this off season, even you can do it through winter services and stuff. Yeah. Phenomenal. And then, that way, come springtime, definitely monitor like the customer acquisition costs. I do have a video out there. I don't remember what the name of it is, but I do break down in like a 10-15 minute video on like different marketing strategies and how to come up with that customer acquisition cost.
Okay.
But I think that's big, man. And then, just obviously the profit sharing and everything will definitely help too. So
great. Hey, thanks. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on and your insight. And I'm excited to digest this all and put it into practice. So I really appreciate it a bunch.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I appreciate you jumping on and hope you have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Well.